Today I'd like to do a video on texting from an InReach Mini to an Iridium phone. This was a headache trying to figure out. I had emailed several companies that deal with InReach and Iridium, some together, some that do both products, some that do one or the other. And I had one company email me back, road posted, and they gave me some key information. This InReach Mini has to initiate the conversation to an Iridium device. And when RoadPost told me that, it was very helpful because otherwise it was very challenging. And I'm going to go through a few steps I did in case you're trying to do this. And hopefully this will help you avoid the headache I had. The first, the inherent design of the InReach Mini, specifically is one I have here, is that you do not have a phone number. You do have an IMEI number, and that's what all communication devices have. The satellite phone, cell phones, if you had an iPad with a cellular connection, it would have that too. That's just basically your identifier. The IMEI does not equate to a phone number. I think it's really important to know because sometimes people will look at something and say, oh, it has an IMEI, so obviously it's a phone number, and that's not always the case because you can have stuff like Tough Books, again, iPads, that kind of thing that don't necessarily have phone numbers because they're not phones, but they do have an identifier. The InReach Mini is basically an internet communicator, and the identifier for this, aside from the IMEI, is the unique InReach email address that you get when you set up this device. One thing when trying to make this whole text back and forth thing happen that was, again, a headache. One thing I learned is I knew all satellite devices need a line of sight to the sky. If you have a GPS, a dedicated GPS that's in your car, or an Iridium phone, or Inmarsat, Globalstar, whatever it might be, BGAN, something like that, you do need line of sight to the sky. With that being said, something that maybe I just hadn't realized because there's no signal strength bar easily seen on the main screen, and maybe I just assumed since it's Iridium it acts like everything else. One thing I've noticed because of trying to make this work back and forth is the InReach Mini, and I don't know if it's with the other InReach devices, this antenna does actually truly need a line of sight to the sky. Because with this, I've been able to, in basic one-story houses with just a normal roof, I can get a signal, and I've been able to have text and phone calls over satellite. Same thing with Garmin satellite units. I've been able to sit inside of a structure and it gets my GPS position. Again, it's not going to be 100%, but it's enough when I have to do stuff that requires having that connection to set stuff up. And I think that that's something that I'll go over in a minute, but I didn't realize how different this was until trying this experiment. So if you are going to be in an area that is going to have questionable line of sight to the sky, say really mountainous area or jungle area, that's something you maybe consider. And I'll go into pros and cons on these in a minute, but I did not realize how truly sensitive this little antenna was. To go over in more detail what I've been able to do with the InReach Mini that I've gone over in some other videos, I have been able to use this in a vehicle on a cell phone suction cup mount and just have this in the car, and I usually just plug it into the USB so it's just always powered on or always is charging, and that works fine. And I can obviously use it when I've gone hiking and I put it on my Camelback, it works fine with that too. But what I've noticed that's, again, like I was just saying, more prevalent is this does not work, at least not consistently, with windows that do typically have a pretty good sight of the sky, and does not work on porches, again with a roof hanging over. And that's something to keep in mind because I can do that with this. I can sit in a window with the antenna extended out. I can sit on a porch and no issues at all. Where did I start trying to make these two talk to each other? I tried to use the displayed phone number the InReach shows on my iPhone from a new message. This, however, is not a unique number to this device when the phone number shows up. And man, it's just falling all over. And I did not realize that. Again, I haven't seen anything that was extremely helpful in this except for little bits and pieces kind of scattered through different blogs and you know, facts and stuff. When you use the InReach and the EarthMate app, or just the InReach, and you send a message, and it goes from here, it goes up to the Iridium constellation network, goes through you know, the terrestrial hubs where it kind of processes everything in the back end, then goes to wherever it's going to do, you know, internet, phones, all that kind of stuff. When you do that to another phone, it shows that it can show up with a phone number. And I thought that was a unique phone number to this device, even though I know I just said this didn't have a phone number. What I mean is a digitally generated, like Garmin or Iridium or something phone number. That's what I thought it might have been, or Delaroam or something. That is not the case. That phone number, from reading a lot, is not unique to that text, and it is also not unique to the person, that individual that you're sending the message to. So this can send a message, this InReach, and then in, you know, when you, I suspend this pretty often and only turn it on when I need to. When that happens, then this will, when you initiate a new message and it's been, you know, new plan started after you suspended it, it'll give you a new phone number. And one thing I read online is that even on your current plan, before you suspend, if there's a huge gap in between, sometimes a new phone number will show on your phone coming from here. Because that was my mistake, which is again why this was such a headache, is I mistakenly took that phone number, put it into the Iridium like it was, you know, a normal phone number, and I was going to text it. Put it in here and tried sending, and I waited all afternoon and just let it sit on the porch all afternoon, and nothing ever came through. I even went on the web portal because I went through several other ideas. I went through the InReach Explore.Garmin web portal, and it never showed up there either. For 2 days, I tried getting messages back and forth between these two devices. And what I could get to happen is from the InReach through the EarthMate app, I could send with the Iridium phone number, I could send a text message using the phone number from this to here. It would take 40 seconds sometimes, 25 seconds other times. It's pretty quick. I would try replying, no luck. So then I tried, because all of these have an email address, basically the phone number. I think it's like .iridium or something, .com or something like that. And so I put that in here, and I sent an email basically with the phone number, and it showed up on here as a text message. So then I took that, I did reply to what exactly came on here, and nothing happened. And it was just driving me insane because I just couldn't go back and forth. I would text all three of these things. I even text Nikki's phone. I could go, you know, terrestrial to Iridium, Iridium to terrestrial, terrestrial to InReach, InReach to this, and then InReach to the Iridium, and I just could not get the Iridium to come to this. And I just tried over and over again, and it was just driving me crazy. This couldn't work, and I couldn't find anything online that was helpful. After that second day, what I decided to do was I took both of these, I set them, this is obviously under a tree, I set them in bright, broad daylight on a piece of wood, and I just sat them there. I just turned them on and walked away for 10 minutes and just let them sit there. And I don't know why this worked, but I was able to come back, send a text from the EarthMate app to the Iridium. Again, no idea why this started working. replied the message just like I had done twice before. And I made a note, I think it was 45 seconds later, 25 seconds later, this started chirping. Excuse me. And then I went through and I thought, well, that must have been a fluke. So immediately I sent another one from here to here. What I'm going to do today, just to show it actually works, because this just does not seem to work easily. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to do a screen record on my phone and EarthMate to InReach, InReach to Iridium, and then reply Iridium back to InReach through EarthMate. So we're going to see if that works.